humanizes her right away. Whew. Guys, that was hard. I burnt a hole probably with acid. Uh-oh. Back again. MC is back. What's happening? Hi, everybody. This is like my first ever YouTube video, and I'm trying so hard to be chill, and I guess we're just gonna go with it and roll with it and hope that it goes well. So for those of you who don't know me, hi, my name is MC Jeter. I am the author of The Gems, which is a new adult contemporary fantasy romance novel. And today I wanted to kind of focus on something that I learned when I went to my first ever writing conference. And one of the seminars that I sat into was talking about like the strength of your novel. Key factor that they were talking about was like, it was like the first 5 pages or something like that. The speaker was like, if you want to improve your writing, pick books that you absolutely loved and dissect their first chapter. So today we're going to do chapter dissections. So, like we do in any lab, we have our lab notebook. What I'm looking for is if in the first chapter I can identify the genre of the book. Like for instance, if this book is a post-apocalyptic book, I should be able to tell within the first chapter that, hey, I'm reading a post-apocalyptic book. But if I'm reading the book and I can't even tell that this book is after some type of tragic disaster, that's a problem. I should be able to tell some part of the setting. For instance, if it is a cyberpunk book, like I should be able to get the cyberpunk vibes. Or if it's a book that's placed in the country, I should be getting the country vibes. If I'm not, that's an issue. The mood. Well, mood and tone. The tone of a book is the kind of vibe that the author wants you to feel. It can be identified by how the author is kind of describing everything that like revolves around the character, as well as describing the character itself. The mood is what the readers feel while the readers are reading. So, am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling scared? Hints of their conflict to come. It doesn't even have to be the main conflicts, but some conflicts. General plot understanding. There are some books that like to leave you confused, and you know, I can understand why authors do that. I personally don't always like that. Like at some point I'm gonna be tired of the confusion. I'm gonna be like, hey, what is going on? Tell me what's going on. And you know, I want to know what's going on before like page 100. Even like a brief plot understanding is what we're looking for that one. Main character. Is the main character obvious? And do I care about them, right? Because like, if I don't really care about the main character, I'm not going to want to read the book. I'm going to put the book down. That's not a strong first chapter. And then I'm gonna, you know, write down what I kind of like and what I don't like about the book. And then also analyze how the chapter ends. How a chapter finishes is what will push people to continue reading the book, right? So if the chapter doesn't have a strong finish, or a finish that's leaving you wanting more, that's something that's easy to put down. That's not how you're going to keep your readers interested. So I'm a Marissa Meyer fan. I have a whole shelf dedicated to Marissa Meyer. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do my first chapter dissection, I want it to be a book that I have read and a book that I have loved. Because, you know, this is going to improve my own writing. I'm going to be reading, analyzing, dissecting these chapters of all of these books that I'll do, and I'll see what I like, what I don't like, and I will be able to integrate those concepts into my own writing. Because your girl is always trying to improve, and my first chapter of my first book that's out, you know, it's not as strong as it could be. So writing a strong first chapter is something that I need to get better at. So we're gonna get into it. The book that I will be dissecting today is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. But hold on, we can't get started yet. If we're doing any type of dissections in the lab, if we're in any type of science lab, we need to be wearing our PPE. Not me about to start dissecting this book. So yes, we do in fact need to don on our personal protective equipment, and luckily I have some that's fit for me. As you can see, I'm a little pinkalicious, but I hope that I'm eating this up. This is my old lab coat from college, and I totally burnt a hole through somewhere with it. I burnt a hole probably with acid. I hope I didn't catch on fire. That would have been crazy. Let's get started. So I am looking for, reminder, genre, mood, setting, tone, conflict, general plot understanding, and main character. Here we go. Bro, she's amazing, bro. I can't. She just Bruh. How? She just slips it in there. Pause. Do not take that out of context, guys. Like, when I tell you, it's like if this was like something that you were, like a living thing that you were dissecting, it would be one of those parts where you're like, dang, how the heck did that happen? Like, how did that one get there? That's impressive type thing. Like, ugh, like chef's kiss. I just reread this book in June, so I feel like I have like a lot of outside context, and it's so hard to put that aside. This is one book series I literally don't think I could ever get sick of. But okay, dissection complete. I love this book. So we're gonna start off with analyzing the first sentence. Here's the kicker though. One could argue that there are two first sentences in this book. We have the very, very first sentence that you see. This book is divided up into separate books or like separate parts. So in this book opener, it says, while her sisters were given beautiful dresses and fine slippers, Cinderella had only a filthy smock and wooden shoes. Versus the actual first sentence of the story, the screw through Cinder's ankle had rusted, the engraved cross marks worn to a mangled circle. I don't know, I personally like this one better. I feel like this one was the one to hook me more than the second first sentence. So this is the one that I'm going to write down in my notebook. I think that this hook is really good for people who especially love fairy tales, or for people who picked up this book not really knowing what it was going to be about. When you read that, you're like, oh, okay, it's a fairy tale retelling. And fairy tales, you know, everybody knows them. Well, not everybody, but you know what I mean. They're very, very well known. And all of those things. So people already have a general idea of the way that this story is going to go, which, you know, is completely fine for any type of fairy tale retelling, because of course there's twists in there that will have you, you know, expecting the unexpected type things. Woo. So in terms of this hook status, I give this hook maybe 3.5 hearts. I really liked it, but it's not one, it didn't make me stress out. It was more of like a ooh type of hook than a type of hook, you know? The setting, we get that right away. We have the name of the city. We have that she's currently in a square, a market, not just any market, a busy market. And then we also know that it's set in the future. We know it's futuristic because they're talking about our main character and how she is doing these things, these very advanced technological things that we can't do in this day. And that's really, like, you figure that out within the first 2 pages. You're right there. But yes, we see the genre. We know it's sci-fi. We know that it's fantasy because at some point the prince comes. And when we see princes, an indicator that it's a fantasy book. And then when Cinder is talking to the prince, Prince Kai, you see her fluster, you see her trip over her words, you see her not wanting any of the attention on her. That's a hint of romance. That's a hint of, you know, a little type of flirtation and yada yada yada. You're getting the vibes. Okay, there's going to be some type of romantic dialogue between these characters in the future. Conflict. This is when, like, the way that Marissa Meyer did this was so interesting. So we find out right away in the book that Cinder, this isn't really a spoiler, but you can fast forward 5 seconds if you like, but that Cinder is a cyborg, and so, you know, she can use her brain to like look up stuff and to recognize people. So she recognizes the prince, and I'll just read this verbatim. A press meeting is to be hosted by Crown Prince Kai on the 15th of August to discuss the ongoing lutimosis research and possible leads for an antidote. Right there, she's getting that information from him as she's seeing him, and that's hinting at the conflict that lutimosis is some type of disease in which there is not a current cure for. We also have another conflict between whoever Audrey is, because they don't tell us who Audrey is, but Cinder makes a purchase that apparently is an inexpensive purchase within this world, and she talks about how if Audrey finds out, she's gonna get in trouble. So general plot understanding, Marissa Meyer does not leave you confused in this first chapter. She gives you enough information where you know what's going on without like being confused. So yeah, you know that there's some disease going on, you know that there's some plague going on. Do you know all the details of this plague? No, but you shouldn't be knowing about that in the first chapter. That's how you can take readers out of your story. So you have to find the right balance between giving information and leaving information out, and I think that she does it well, where I'm not confused and I'm satisfied with what I have, but want like another taste. Like, you know how when you finish a meal, but you still want that dessert, you still want that cheesecake. I still want that cheesecake. I will be turning the next page and reading the next chapter. Now getting into tone and mood. So remember, we could also analyze voice as well, because there's tone, mood, and there's also voice. I'll add voice just because I have another spot for that. Tone is the attitude that the author is portraying. The voice is the personality that the author is portraying, and this is all specifically referring to the writing style, more the style than the content. So the tone that she used here is like very casual and very fun. There's a couple of scenes where it made me like huff out a little bit of laughter because it was just funny. How Cinder interacted with the characters in the upbeat tone, I would say. And then the tone kind of shifts at the end of the chapter, and it gets a little bit more intense. You're kind of like on the edge of your seat a little bit more when we have that plague scene happening. But now when we think about mood, like what the readers are feeling, I think we're feeling content. I wouldn't say that you're feeling like extra happy. You're not feeling any extra sad. You're just like kind of content with what is going on, and humored by some of the conversations. At the end of the chapter, you're scared, you're nervous. The plague, because the plague shows up and you're like, whoa, what's the plague? What's going on? Type thing. And Cinder is freaking out, so you're in turn freaking out, and you're like, what's going on? And then if we think about voice, she uses a really witty voice. Is something that's really hard to talk about, and hopefully by the end of by the time I've done more chapter dissections, I'll be able to analyze it more. But you know, we just rolling with the punches right now. I want to talk about the end of the chapter. How the book leaves you off is with Cinder huddling, hiding in her workshop as chaos is going outside because of a single incidence of the plague happening. And that type of the cowering that's happening, the fear that's happening, that's something that's pushing the story forward. The chapter is ending, but it's ending with you wanting more because like what happens next? She's been exposed. That's a problem. So my overall likes and dislikes of this chapter, I didn't super like the first sentence. Having two sentences back to back that are both strong could really go both ways. It could be really good for the book. It could also be really bad for the book. It could kind of take the reader out of the story a little bit if it's just strong and strong and strong and strong and strong. And I think that she just could have made her first sentence a little bit stronger. The screw through Cinder's ankle had rusted, the engraved cross marks worn to a mangled circle. It's a good sentence is the thing. It's a good sentence. Well, I'll tell you why. The screw through Cinder's ankle, what, she's got a screw in it? Okay, that's not normal. What's going on here? Had rusted. You know that screw has been on there for a long time because of the oxidization that's happening. The engraved cross marks, if this is the screw that like, you know, has the thing through it where you, to a mangled circle, meaning that she's unscrewed and screwed back on that screw within her ankle so many times where it's barely even like a screw anymore. That sentence in itself is a really good sentence. Now I don't know. I dissected it more, so now it's like, okay. It's a really good sentence. I'll put it at an okay. But I feel like maybe first sentence of chapter 2. It's a strong sentence. It is a strong sentence, but I think I would have preferred something different. Cinder is very relatable, and having a relatable main character is important. You learn that she's looked down upon. You learn that she's discriminated against. You learn that she's marginalized, and there's some things that she does that, you know, people from marginalized communities can relate to. Just trying to hide the things that make you different. That way people won't comment on them so much. The conversations don't always, you know, go the most respectfully all the time. So to keep yourself safe, you hide parts and pieces of yourself. She covered her steel hand first, and though her right palm began to sweat immediately inside the thick material, she felt more comfortable with the gloves on, hiding the plating of her left hand. Exactly. She's hiding what's making her different to protect herself from whatever the people around her could say. And she does this specifically after being discriminated against. That automatically makes her like relatable to me. I can relate to this experience. And it also humanizes her right away. You know, some characters are seen as you know, perfect. They have no insecurities, everything going for them, yada yada yada. Cinder doesn't, and it's, you know, she's also a cyborg. So yes, she has these skills where she can look things up into her head, but that doesn't make her any less human. And then I also liked again how she sneaks in information without just straight out saying it. There's always the show, don't tell. Show me what's happening rather than tell me. Sneak in information. So what are my overall thoughts of this exercise? The biggest takeaways that I have in this is to sneak in the conflict. I'm currently writing a story, and I feel like I did not sneak in the conflict. I just kind of told the conflict. So I want to get better at sneaking in the conflict. And so for my future dissections, I'm going to be looking at, is the author sneaking in the conflict, or are they just telling me straight up? What are my overall thoughts of this process? This is hard. This is hard, y'all. I haven't taken an English class in like 3-ish years. So I feel like I really need to go over mood, tone, and voice. Especially because, you know, I'm an author. I'm writing stories and stuff. I really enjoyed this. Was not expecting it to be an hour, but your girl is a slow reader, and I would need to figure out how to become a faster reader. I'll show you guys my notebook. It's so cute. Consider this book dissected. I'm a weirdo. Let me relax. Thank you guys for watching my chapter dissection, and if this is kind of something that you like, totally give me some recommendations of what books I should dissect in the future. I want to dissect some really, 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 really good chapters, but I also want to dissect some really, 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 really bad chapters, because the way to make yourself a better writer is not only to read writing that you really vibe with, that kind of reflects how you want to your writing to be, but also to read how you don't want your writing to be, so you can see what not to do. So it's as important as it is to see what to do, it's also important to see what not to do. So if you have any books that like are immediately no's for you, or were immediately no's for you after you read the first chapter, drop them in the comments. Let me know, what book should I dissect next. Thanks guys, and don't forget to subscribe.